Hello! Welcome to Annie's and our second video tutorial for the Irish Fields Gansey Crochet Afghan. I'm Lina Skvagersson and I'm excited to be your guide as we make this stunning Afghan. I love teaching as well as sharing tips and tricks to make your crochet journey easier. I know we'll have a great time as we learn together. In each video of this series, we're going to crochet a new unique section of our beautiful Afghan together. As you discovered last time, we'll crochet with both new and familiar stitches while I share some helpful tips along the way. Stitching the second block, you'll learn how to work clusters, the linen stitch, a basic cable, the ever so popular Suzette stitch, as well as the waffle stitch. We'll enjoy lots of fun new techniques and stitches. And don't worry, I'll guide you through the steps as we go. I promise to go nice and slow so that you can follow along. The pattern tells you about the yarn, colors, and extra supplies you'll need, including a crochet hook size I9 5.5 millimeter, tapestry needle, locking stitch markers, scissors, and a tape measure. Be sure to save any leftover yarn on your skeins as you'll need it later. Kit Club members also have access to a digital stitch guide, which is located online at annieskitclub.com. So here we have our block number 2. It starts with a cluster texture here in section 6. Then we'll work a linen stitch for section 7. Then we'll work this basic cable separately. We will continue working section 9 with the Suzette stitch here. And then we'll work the waffle stitch section 10 here. We will whip stitch these sections together. And then finalize the whole thing by putting 2 rounds of the border around the whole thing. Let's get started with section 6 and the cluster texture. For the first section, we will create a texture called cluster stitch. It's basically a mix of single crochet and clusters, which creates a nice all-over bumpy texture. Let's begin. We'll be working with color E, and I'll start by putting a slip knot on my hook. And then we're going to work 17 chain stitches and a little bit loosely. So 1, 2, 3, 16, and 17. So I have 17 stitches here on my chain band. And we will start working in the second one from our hook. And like we talked about before, we could go either into this front loop of each stitch, or you can go into this bar in the back of each stitch. So I'm going into the back here now to work a single crochet and yarn over, go through both loops on my hook. Then into the next one. Yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and go through both 2 loops on my hook. And into the next one. So this is how you will work single crochet stitches all the way across. And I'll meet you again when you are reaching the end. 14. And then 15. And 16 working in the very first chain we made. So now I have 16 single crochet stitches here across, and I'll turn to work row 2 on the wrong side. And we will start the row with a chain 1, and then we will work a single crochet in the first single crochet. So that's the same stitch that we worked our chain 1 into. So just go into that first one and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through both 2 loops on your hook. Then it tells us to skip this next single crochet stitch, and then we have a bracket that tells us our repetition. So it is to work a cluster in the next stitch and a single into next. And this is how we work it. So to work the cluster, we will begin with a yarn over, then go into that stitch, bring up a loop and make sure that you're bringing it up a little bit high so that it's loose. Then yarn over, go into the same stitch and bring up another loop. So you now have 5 loops here on your hook. Then yarn over again and go into same stitch again and bring up another loop. So you have a total of 7 loops here now on your hook. So we then yarn over and we will wiggle our way through here. You can go all at once or take them a little bit step by step. So you make it through all 7. And then you'll work a single crochet in the next stitch. So bring up a loop, yarn over, and go through both those 2 loops. And as you can see, we're working here now on the wrong side, because working those clusters, they pop out here on the right side. So we'll continue that repetition across here. So it's to work a cluster in the next stitch, yarn over and then bring up a loop, yarn over and bring up another loop, yarn over and bring up a third time. So we have 7 loops on the hook. We'll yarn over and go through all 7 loops. And then complete the repetition by working a single crochet into our next stitch. So there you have 2 repetitions of the pattern. You're going to continue like this all the way across, and I'll meet you again at the end of the row. Single in the next one. So I have 2 last stitches here on my row, and so I can fit 1 more repetition in. So we'll work another cluster, yarn over and go into the second to last stitch and bring up a loop, yarn over, go into the same stitch and bring up a loop, and then a third time bringing up a loop. So we have 7 loops. We'll yarn over and go through all 7 loops, and then work a single crochet here in the last stitch. So we've finished row 2 and turn around to row 3. So now we can see all our clusters here lined up. So we have a total of 7 of them and a total of 8 single crochet stitches. So for row number 3, we'll just work single crochet across, which means that we will chain 1 to start the row here and then work a single in the first stitch and then a single here on top of the clusters. Just make sure to work into each stitch here across. So working single crochet here now towards the end of the row, making sure you get 1 in each one of these stitches so that you get a total of 15 single crochet stitches across. So with that, we'll turn to the wrong side again and we will work our row number 4. It's a little bit similar to row 2, but we're now going to work our clusters staggered to the first ones. So we'll start the row with a chain 1 and then work a single crochet in each of the first 2 stitches. So going into the very first one to work 1 single crochet and then 1 in also the next one. Then we will work our clusters. So again, wrap the yarn around your hook, go into the next stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over and go to the same stitch and bring up a loop and yarn over and go in the same stitch and bring up a loop. So we have 7 loops on our hook again, and we will yarn over and go through all 7 loops. Then we will work a single crochet in the next stitch. And we will work a cluster in the next one for our repetition here. So again, bring up those 7 loops here. And yarn over and go through all 7 loops. So you can take them a little bit one by one, like that. So that's our repetition for this row, to work a single in next and cluster in next, all the way across to the last 2 stitches. So work across and meet me again at the end of the row. Nearing the end of the row here now, I will work 1 more cluster, bringing up a total of 7 loops here on my hook. So yarn over and go through the space and bring up a loop. So we have a total of 7. I'll yarn over and go through all those 7 loops at once. So here on row 4, we're ending with 2 single crochet stitches, and we'll work a single crochet stitch in each one of them. So that was 1, and then 1 also in the very last one. There. And then turn around. So now we have finished row 4, and you can see on this row here now you have a total of 6 clusters across, staggered in between the clusters we made here back on row number 2. So after a row of clusters, we're going to work row 5, which is a repetition of row 3, where we will just work single stitches across. So we'll chain 1 and then work a single crochet in the first one, and then in each of these stitches across. 13, 14, and 15 single crochet stitches across here for row number 5. So we'll turn to the wrong side again and work row 6. So for row 6, we will chain 1, and then we'll work a single crochet here in the first single crochet. Then again, we have the brackets telling us to work a cluster into the next and a single into the next. So yarn over, go into the next stitch and bring up a loop, yarn over, go into the next stitch and bring up a loop, and yarn over and go into the next stitch and bring up a loop. Well, now you know this by now, how to work your clusters. We will now yarn over and go through all 7 loops on your hook, and then work a single crochet stitch in the next stitch. So yarn over, bring up a loop, yarn over, bring up a loop, yarn over and bring up a loop, and then yarn over and go through all 7 loops and a single in the next one. So as you can see now, again, these clusters are being staggered so that this previous ones down here on row number 4 are ending up in the center of these one we're making now on this row, just like these ones are also staggered down here. So this is how it's going to continue alternating. So I'll just continue across the row, and I'll meet you again when we're nearing the end of the row. Single crochet in the next one, and then 2 last stitches here where I'm doing my last cluster in the next to last stitch. 7 loops on my hook, pull through all 7, and then end with a single crochet here in the last stitch. So now I've finished row 6. I'll turn around to the right side again, and you can see now how all these clusters are worked across the surface, and rows 3, 4, 5, and 6, our last 4 rows, are the rows that you will just now continue to repeat over and over again in height, and I will meet you again when we are nearing the measurement given in the pattern. I'm working my last cluster here. So I'm yarn over and I'm bringing up a loop, yarn over and bringing up a loop a third time. So I have 6, 7 loops here now on my hook, and I'm yarn over and go through all those 7 loops. And then as I'm on a row 3 here now, I'm ending with 2 stitches at the end of the row, and I'll work a single crochet into each one of those last 2 stitches. So I will now turn to the right side again. So as you can see, I am now at the point where I think I'm reaching the final measurements. So I'm going to bring in my tape measure. So to be finished, I should have reached a measure of 4 3/4, and that's exactly where I'm at. So with that, I'm going to end here to work my last row. And like the pattern says, you can end on a row, either on a row number 4 or a row number 6, as long as you're ending on the wrong side row, so that you're now here on the right side to work your last row. So the last row is starting with a chain 2, and then to bring the stitch number to 16 stitches, we will be working 2 half double crochet stitches in the next stitch. So go into the stitch and work 1 half double crochet stitch, and then work another one into the same stitch. So we are increasing here now by working 2 in the same stitch. So let's see, 1, 2, 3 loops. So there you have the increase, and now I'll just continue working half double crochet in each stitch across for this last row. I'm nearing the end of the row here now, working half double in each of these last stitches, and also in the last one. So there we have the last row finished of this first section on our second block. So now we can just fasten off, leaving a bit of a tail, and then pulling the tail through that loop on our hook and tighten up things. So now when we have finished the section, let's take a look at the measurements. It's supposed to be 5 inches across and 5 inches in height. So as you can see, my measurements are right on spot here, and I'm ready to continue with the next section. Next up, we will continue stitching linen stitches on the same piece, working section 7. As we continue with the second texture on our second block, we will create a pretty all-over texture called the linen stitch. We'll be working single crochet stitches combined with chain spaces. For this section, we are going to work with color D, and we will be joining it here on the right side in the top of these chain 2 at the beginning here of the last row. So stick your hook through that top chain and wrap the yarn around your hook and bring it through. And then we will start with a chain 2. So just chain 1 and chain 2. For this row, we are going to work in the back bar of each of these half double crochet stitches to create that nice ridge. So again, it's like we have these 2 loops at the top of each stitch, and then we have these bars here in the back of each stitch. So to work into them, we are going to wrap the yarn around our hook, and then we're going to work a half double in each of the next 2 here to begin with. Tilt the work towards you, find that bar in the back, yarn over and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through all 3 loops. And then again, yarn over, go into the next back bar, bring up a loop, yarn over and go through all 3 loops. So this is how we work the half double crochet stitches into these back bars. And next up in the pattern, it tells us to work 2 in the next stitch. And this is because we want to make an increase across this row, because the texture we're going to work now, the linen stitch, has a little bit of a tighter gauge than regular stitching. So we need more stitches to just make things stay the same width. So here you see I worked 1 in this stitch, and now I'm going to work a second one in the same stitch. So that's an increase of a stitch, and after that we are going to work half double in each of the next 8 before we make our next increase. So that's 1, 2, so that's 8, and then I'll work 2 in the next one. So work 1 half double crochet and then another one in the same back bar, 2, and then we have 3 stitches left here, so we'll work a half double crochet in each one of them. So that's 1, 2, and a third one in the last one. So that ends our first row, and we now have increased to a total number of 18 stitches across. We will turn to the wrong side, and we will now work our row number 2. So for row number 2, we will start with a chain 1 to just turn the row, and then we will be working in the bars here in the front of each stitch. So not in the top 2 loops here, but into this horizontal bar in front of each stitch. And we will be working a single crochet in the first one. So here we have our first stitch. Go into that bar, yarn over and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through both 2 loops. Then we have a bracket telling us we have a repetition, and that bracket says to work a single crochet in the next half double, chain 1 and skip 1. So to do so, we'll start here working a single crochet in this next one, and then chain 1, and important to chain loosely here so that we don't tighten up things, and we'll skip this next horizontal bar, and that is the end of our repetition. So again, single in the next one, and then chain 1 loosely, skip 1, single in the next one, chain 1, and skip 1. So let's take a look. We are now creating these chain spaces here, and by working into that back bar, you can see how we get this pretty horizontal ridge here on the front side with those 2 loops that we're not working into. So continue your repetition all the way across, and I will meet you when we're nearing the end of the row. So remember to skip 1 and then single in the next one, chain 1, skip 1, and so on. Chain 1, skip 1, single in the next one, chain 1, skip 1, that's that one above our last stitch here. Then we have the chain 2 at the beginning of our previous row, and we will put a single crochet in the second one of them. So go into the stitch and bring up a loop and yarn over and go through both 2 loops on your hook. So that ends our row 2, and we will now turn to the right side again, and we are ready to work row 3. To work row 3, we will begin with a chain 1, then we will work a single crochet in the first single crochet stitch. So that is in the same stitch as we worked our chain. So go into that stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over and go through 2 loops. Then we have brackets telling us our repetition, and that is to work a single crochet in the next chain 1 space. So that's that space we have coming up here. Go into the space, bring up a loop, yarn over and go through both 2 loops. Then we will chain 1. Make sure to not chain tight when you're making these chain spaces. We don't want things to get tightened up here. So a loose chain and then skip a stitch. So the repetition again, go into the next space and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through both 2 loops, and a chain 1 and skip a stitch. Single crochet in the next space, yarn over, go through both 2 loops, chain 1 and skip a stitch. So this is the repetition that you'll repeat here all the way across to the last 3 stitches, and I'll meet you there. I'm working a single crochet here in that last space, and then I'm chaining 1, and I'm going to skip that next one, and that leaves me with 1 last stitch on the row where we will put a single crochet. So this ends our row number 3, which is the pattern row that we're just going to work exactly the same way over and over again. So when we now turn to work row 4, we're just going to repeat row 3. So we will just start again with the chain 1 and then work a single crochet here in the first single crochet stitch. And then we have the bracket that tells us to work a single crochet here in the space, and then work a chain 1, and then skip the single crochet stitch. And that is the repetition. So then you find the next space, work a single crochet, chain 1, and skip a stitch. So just continue like this, back and forth, repeating row 3, and I meet you again when we are nearing the end of this section. Single crochet in the space, chain 1, and single crochet here in the last stitch. So now I have worked back and forth, and I'm nearing the final measurement. So I'm going to bring in my tape measure because the pattern tells us to stop at the point where we have reached 8 3/4 inches on this section. So now let's take a look. 8 3/4. That's that mark there. And that's exactly where I am right now. So with that, I will end working linen stitch, and I will work a last row where we will bring the number of stitches back down to 16. So we will start with the chain 1 and then work a single crochet here in the same first stitch. Then we will work a single crochet in the next space. And then to decrease here now, we're going to skip this next stitch. And then we have the repetition in the brackets telling us to work a single in the next space and then a single in the next single. So this is going to be the way we have worked. We will just continue working in our pattern until we reach the last 3 stitches on the row. So in the space, in the next stitch, single in the next stitch, and now I have a space and 2 stitches left. So again, to decrease here, we're skipping to work in that last space and work a single crochet in each of these last 2 stitches. So with that, we are now back down to the 16 stitches we want our upper edge to end with. So again, we can now double check our measurements. So now I'm measuring the section to measure a total of 9 inches. And if I go all the way from the start of this strip, I am measuring a total of 14, which is exactly the measure we want at this point. So with that, we can bring in our scissors and fasten off and pull the tail through the last loop. So with that, we have finished our section 7. Coming up next is section 8, the basic cable in the center of our block. We will be crocheting many different cable stitches for this Afghan, but don't worry if you've never tried cables before. We're going to start with a really basic cable to get an understanding of the process. Join me and I'll show you. We'll begin by putting a slip knot on our hook, and then we will chain 8. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Then we will now work into this chain band, working a double crochet in the 4th chain from our hook. So yarn over for a double crochet and then skip 1, 2, 3 and work into the 4th. So just go into the 4th and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through 2 and yarn over and go through 2. So those 3 that we turned with here is our turning chain, and it has the height of a double crochet stitch. So continue working into each of these chain stitches. So again, double crochet, and then into the next one, and then we have our last one. There. So counting these now as a double crochet, we have 6 double crochet stitches across. So we'll turn to row 2, and for row 2 we will start with a chain 2, which is the height of a half double crochet stitch. Then we will be working back post double crochet stitches. So we're going to work around the post of these stitches, and we're going to work in the back of them. So to work a double crochet, we'll wrap around the hook, and then to go around the back of the post, you can flip the work a little bit towards you so that you see the back, then go down under and up again, yarn over and bring up a loop. So you have 3 loops on your hook. You'll yarn over and go through 2, and then yarn over and go through 2. So that's our first back post double crochet stitch, and we'll continue working the same into the next 3. So yarn over and again go around the post here in the back and bring up a loop, then yarn over and go through 2, yarn over and go through 2, yarn over, find the post of the 3rd one and yarn over and bring up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, and yarn over and go through 2, and then yarn over and go around the last of these 4, yarn over and go through 2, and yarn over and go through 2. And now we have reached these turning chains, and we will put a half double crochet in the top of the 3rd one of those to end the row. So bring up a loop. We have 3 loops on our hook. We'll yarn over and go through all those 3 loops to end our row number 2. We're now here on the right side, and we are ready to work our row number 3. So we will start with a chain 2, 1 and 2. Then we are going to skip working into these next 2 stitches and work front post treble stitch around these 2. So follow me now. We will wrap the yarn twice around our hook for a treble, then skip, skip, then go down under and up and yarn over and bring up a loop. So we now have 4 loops here on our hook. We'll yarn over and go through the first 2, yarn over, go through the second 2, and yarn over and go through the last 2. So you see we made this really like long stitch here, the treble stitch, so that we can reach over these ones that we're skipping. So we'll work another one here around the next one, yarn over twice, go around the post and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2, yarn over, go through the next 2, and yarn over and go through the last 2. So now we have these 2 slanting front post treble stitches. We are next working front post treble stitches in each of these skipped 2 stitches. So again, wrap your yarn twice around the hook and then go reach over here now and go back to work around the post of the first stitch we skipped.
under and up, yarn over and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2, yarn over and go through the second 2, and yarn over and go through the last 2. So you see now how these stitches are crossing each other. We still have this one that we skipped waiting there for us. So we'll wrap the yarn twice around the hook, go down, under, and up again around that post, and yarn over and bring up a loop. We'll yarn over and go through the first 2, yarn over and go through the second 2, and yarn over and go through the last 2. So now you can see how we were able to cross these stitches here by skipping and then working into the skipped stitches. So we have now reached the end of the row where we have these turning chains, where we're going to put a half double in top of the second one. So 1, 2, and then go into that second one, yarn over and bring up a loop. We have 3 loops on our hook. We'll yarn over and go through all those 3 loops. So that ends our row 3 with the cable crossing, and we'll turn to the wrong side to work row number 4. We're chaining 2, 1 and 2, and then we're going to work back post stitches here now in our 4 cable stitches. So just spread things out so that you are sure you're working them in the right order, and you'll yarn over to work a double crochet and make sure you find the post of the first one, go under and up, yarn over and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2, and yarn over and go through the second 2. Then find your next stitch here in the back, yarn over and go around the post of the second stitch. Spread it out so you see what we're doing. Yarn over and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2 and then through the second 2. And now we'll yarn over again and then find the post of the next stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, and yarn over and go through 2. And we have one last treble here to work around. So yarn over, go around the post, bring up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, and yarn over and go through 2. And we have reached the end of the row where we have these chain 2, and we'll put a half double crochet in the top of the second one. So yarn over and go through all the loops on your hook. So that finishes row 4, and we'll turn around to the right side again. You can really see this cable crossing here now. We're ready to work row 5. For row 5, we're starting with the chain 2, and then now we will work front post double crochet around each of these 4. So yarn over, go around the front here of the post, under and up, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, and yarn over and go through 2. Then again, go under the next post and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through 2, and yarn over and go through 2. Another front post double crochet stitch, and then we'll end the row with a half double crochet here in the second chain. So go through that second chain, yarn over and bring up a loop, yarn over and go through all 3 loops on your hook. So that is the end of row 5. I will turn to the wrong side to work row 6. And as you can see, row 6 is just a repetition of row 4. So take a look at row 4. It tells us to start with the chain 2 and then work our back post double crochet around each of the next 4. So again, yarn over, go around the post here in the back of work, yarn over and bring up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, and yarn over and go through 2. Another one, yarn over, go around the post, bring up a loop, yarn over and go through 2, and yarn over and go through 2. And then a third time, a fourth time, and we've reached the end here now where we're putting a half double crochet in top of the chain 2. So let's turn it around, and now I've completed row 6, and from here on you're just going to continue working rows 3, 4, 5, and 6 over and over again. So next up, I'm starting again with row 3 to make another cable crossing. So continue like this and meet me again a little bit later on. I'm finishing up a row number 6, putting a half double crochet here in the top of the chain 2, and then turn to the right side again. And here you can now see how I have completed 2 more repetitions of these rows, and I'm now really able to see these cable twists here. So continue the same way, and I'll meet you again when we're nearing 14 inches in length. Working a front post double crochet here now along the last front post stitch, reach the end of the row, and I'm putting here now a half double crochet into the second chain, pulling through the yarn, and then yarn over and go through all 3 loops on my hook. So with that, that was a row 5, and I will now stop and measure my cable. So make sure your cable is all nice and relaxed, and then measure it. And it's supposed to measure 14 inches here when you're done. So that's at the point where I am right now. So I will then stop right here and now continue working along the left side edge here of the cable. So now I'm ready to work along this left side of the cable. Before I do so, I'm going to place some markers, because first of all, the pattern tells us that we're going to work 28 stitches evenly along the first 9 inches. So I'm measuring here now 9 inches, and then I'm going to put a marker there so I know which section to work along here to begin with. And then I'm going to space 28 stitches along this side, and to make it a little bit easier to do this evenly, I'm using my markers to divide the section into smaller sections. So first, I'm dividing it approximately in half, which means I'll pick up 14 stitches on each side for a total of 28. And then again, you can put another marker here to measure half of this section here, and also do the same here, measuring half of this one, so that we now have divided our section into 4 little shorter sections. And if we divide 28 in 4, that means we will work 7 stitches in each of these spaces. And I think that this makes it a little bit easier to space out those stitches evenly. So to begin, we're working the chain 2, which replaces it gives us the height of 1 half double crochet stitch. And then I'll now work 7 stitches to this first marker. So for half double, we yarn over and then go into the edge here now, inside the edge stitch, and yarn over and go through all 3 loops on your hook. And then a second one. And my third one. See here now, I'm planning a little bit ahead. So my third one, I'm going to put that in this space here between the row ends on my cable. So this was my third one. Then I'll put a fourth here. A fifth will go into, I'm putting it into the space here. And then my sixth one. And then a seventh here in the space right before the marker. So now I know those 7 stitches are spaced out evenly. Now we'll continue working 7 stitches exactly the same way in this space, and so on all the way across to this last marker. And then we know we have the right amount of stitches for this first section as we continue and work 17 stitches here along the last section. So keep working your half double crochet stitches here across, and I'll meet you again when we are nearing the end of the side row. So we're working 15, 16, and then I'm going to put 17 down here in the corner. So just go into the corner stitch. Might be a little tight. That was our very first chain on the cable. So pull through the yarn and then go through all those 3 loops on your hook. So now we have worked also 17 stitches evenly here along the last 5 inches, and we can fasten off. So cut the yarn, pull the tail through the loop on your hook, just like that. Then we will turn our cable around so that we can work also here along the right side. Let's start here in the corner to join the yarn. So go through this corner stitch, leave a tail and pull the yarn through this corner stitch. And we're ready to start, and we'll start also here with a chain 2, and then we'll work half double crochet stitches here, a total of 28 evenly along the side to our marker. And then after the marker, just like we did on the other side, we'll work 17 stitches evenly down to the opposite corner. So work just like we did here, and space the stitches out evenly, maybe with the help of markers, and I'll meet you again when we have reached the corner. 16, and then 17 is going to be the stitch here in the corner. So that was the last one, and with that now we have worked also on this right side. We have the 28 stitches here, and then we have the 17 stitches evenly here, and with the beginning chain we have a total of 46 stitches across. So we're done, and we can just fasten off.